What's up, everybody? We're back again with another episode of the Pop Up Podcast. It's your boy, Stephen Motivate, with my co-host, Pastor Reverend
Andre M. Rev Andre M., also known as Pastor Andre Mitchell.
Pastor.
By this time, y'all can call me Dre.
Pastor Dre. So we was talking a little bit off camera about, family and respecting women and fathers being in the house and all these things. I don't know what we touch on first, but before we got on camera, I was doing a little research, and it says that 60 to 65% of a certain ethnicity is more likely in the U.S. to not have their father in the household. I thought about that, and the other thing is women and the society we live in, and whether or not we respect women, truly respect them, and can we really respect them, and all those things popped up in my mind. And then I thought about, if the father's not in the household in 65% of those houses, then it's single women typically that's running the home, single mothers. So, I mean, just to let the cat out of the bag, that was black families mostly, right? And I see your shirt says Dope Black Dad, and I think that's cool. What do you think? Do you think you are the exception, or do you think you are the standard?
How could I answer this? So I don't think I am the exception to the rule or the only. All the people in my sphere, all of the dudes that I rock with, they're all dope black dads, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So for my circle, it is not an exception. But throughout our history, it's saying those numbers, I don't believe they're false. I believe they are real. There's a lot of dynamics, socioeconomic dynamics. Some of the white supremacy and racism has contributed to that, especially in the time of the welfare system, where you couldn't get assistance if there was a man in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that has happened, but I learned something. And, I purchased a new vehicle this year.
Yeah.
And in the forums, there were a lot of people talking about all the problems going on with it. And then I was starting to get buyer's remorse, like, whoa, did I do the wrong thing? And someone noted, and it made sense to me, it said, only people who have problems post on these things.
Right.
The people who don't have problems, they don't post. They go about driving their car, enjoying it.
Yeah.
And sometimes only the bad fathers, specifically the bad black fathers, get the press.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are a constant father, you're a good father, there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Right.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I do think, like I said, the statistics are real, but there are a lot of great, specifically black dads out there, a lot of great dads, period, that just don't get the publicity and don't want it. They're just doing the work. They're just showing up. They're being fathers. They're training and all of that. And so I think we have to kind of shine a light on that, on who they are. Someone did mention my shirt not too long ago, and they were wondering they were of the other ethnicity or another ethnicity, and they was wondering, like, why do you have to add black there? But it's purposeful. Sometimes the press is only on those who are bad and negative. Mm-hmm. So when there's a dope one, it needs to be shouted from the rooftops sometimes.
Yeah.
To shift and adjust the narrative, and then it'll get people to look up to and look toward. If I didn't have a father growing up, can I still be a dope father?
Right.
Is it important? So if we champion it a little more, I think we can start swinging the pendulum back the right way, or at least just get some more publicity on those who are standing in that gap and being fathers. Because fathers are important. Single mothers are important, but that doesn't replace the role of the father. The role of the father is amazing and important and impactful.
Yeah. And I think about the fact that while someone may not be in the home, that doesn't mean that they're completely out of that child's life.
Correct.
Right. There is today, divorces happen, that sort of thing happens where your dad may not live with you, but there's still an opportunity to have a relationship with them. And so that's something else. I think the statistics, to your point, and even just some of the news and media always points to the negative versus like there's a lot of good, solid fathers, black fathers out there, and the emphasis on black is important. We'll have to explain that in another episode, but it is important. And so congrats to all my homies out there that's doing their thing, raising their families or that have raised their families like you. You're a dope black dad. I can attest to that. You've been there for your family and raising. What would you say? I want to get to the respecting women piece, but before we dive into that, what do you think are some of the things that have make you? And I know we always want to do better and do more, but what are some things you are proud of? If you can toot your own horn a bit about what you've done for your family as the father figure.
My family has never known what it's like to come in and the lights aren't on unless it was a storm. They don't know it's like to not have the cell phone paid, a bill paid, or not be able to do this, do that, and I'm proud of that. But that meant that sometimes I had to do without. I don't always have the latest this, that, and the other. I come last. Family comes 1st. We make sure that the necessities. It makes no sense for me to have a closet full of Jordans and I can't pay the light bill. It makes no sense. I need to keep the basics on to protect. One thing about a father or man in general, they provide and they protect. And so a lot of times protection is providing. And so you make sure you do what you need to do to provide and protect. And so I am extremely proud of that. What about you? Is there something you can say that you are proud of as a father?
I would say the same thing. I think providing is one of my strong suits. Like I'm definitely a provider. I'm definitely someone that's going to give the money, so to speak, and make sure that everyone has clothes, food, be able to do some cool things like that. And so I'm really proud of that piece. I'm working on trying to be, just make sure I'm like everything I'm working on and everything I'm doing that it matters for the right reasons. Like I'm trying to get money and achieve new things, but I'm starting to notice that the goalpost keeps moving. Right, you get to a touchdown, it's like, oh yeah, we really need to do this, and so what I'm working on is just trying to be better, and I think that's something I'm proud of. Like I'm not so unaware that I don't want to be better at being a father. Yeah. So, what would you say you're proud of as far as your role as being a father?
One of the things I think of, because as a man, father specifically, it's our job to not only provide but protect both. And I believe my children have been protected in the sense that they've never come home and the lights not been on because I didn't pay the bill. I try to make sure that I provide for them. I even teach my boys that when we go somewhere, I sit so I can face the door, see the door, so I can know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them that I care. I'm not just eating. I'm watching. So I'm proud of that. To for my kids to say I've been there, I've shown up, I've protected, provided. And another thing I'll add, and then I'm gonna ask you the same question, is I'm proud because I didn't know that I could do this, but I don't punish in anger. I've learned how to get my emotions out of punishment, you
Mm.
know. And so I think growing up, sometimes I got spanked out of anger and not just out of discipline. And I've learned to correct that with my children. I mean, I still got have room to go grow in that. But what about you? What are you proud of
Yeah,
as a father?
I'm proud of providing. Similar to you, I think I've been able to provide and protect in that sort of way, and I'm proud of me noticing that I still have work to do. And that I don't have it all together, and like I need to connect with my family more. I wonder if all this working I'm doing, all this going after goals, like I said, the goalpost keeps moving. So I wonder if it's worth it. And is it, am I being selfish or am I being selfless? Am I trying to achieve just for achievement's sake? Um, you know, what is it like to make another $1 million or do this or that? And it's like, at what cost? So I'm just getting started in this thing. But I am proud of the fact that I've been able to take care of them, and I feel like I can do that easily. But I think I need to just continue to explore what else I need to do to connect and make sure I'm creating that sense of they can come to me. You know, we can communicate. I teach my girls scriptures, so I'm proud of that. They like know Psalm 23 now, pretty much. I got to walk them through it, but that's a really cool feeling
Uh,
because it's like we don't go to church as much as I'd like us to right now, and we need to start going more. But in the meantime, I'm trying to do as much as I can to give them what I got coming up, scriptures, prayers. I'll even give them little songs that we made, little Patch the Pirate songs or stuff that I would have grew up listening to because I still remember those things in it. I think that lays a good foundation of, you know, um, giving them this idea of and belief in God, right? That they may not get if they don't, if they didn't have me as their father. So I'm proud of that.
yeah, that's good. Another thing that I makes me proud is both of our fathers were proud of us as fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and that was amazing to see him uh, even say to other people how the kind of fathers we were or becoming. So uh, yeah, that's beautiful and powerful. I like the idea of modeling spirituality in front of your children. And I've done that too, and so that's another thing to be proud of. Um, some things that I'm not proud of, I still find it. I've had tough conversations with my kids, but I still think I could be better at it, like conversations around sex and I know better. I know that you're supposed to talk to your kids about that, and I had the talk when my boys were 9.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I did that, but now they're 15, 16. There needs to be a follow up.
Yeah, they really know what's
Yeah,
going on now.
I I know I need to, but there is just I never got it myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still nervous on what I might find out. So
Yeah.
I gotta bite the bullet and make sure I'm that. But I do think I've become the type of dad that my sons and daughter could come and talk to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't. They don't think I'll flip out about stuff that conversational, and we're getting to that place. They're not old enough yet for us to have the real man to man conversations, but I think I've built the groundwork that they won't be afraid to come to me.
Yeah.
But I can do better on some of those topics. Not like with my middle son. I would always tease him about drugs. That was my way of getting him not to do it. We'd pass by a vape shop. I was like, "Weren't you in there yesterday?" And he laughed, and they finally like, "Okay, ha ha ha, dad."
Yeah.
But that was my way. But you know, I probably need to buck up and really talk about some of those key issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think you know, missed in terms of I didn't get the street smarts I think I probably should have gotten. And I think I made some dumb mistakes because of it. And because everything was off the table, everything was sin, everything was bad. It's like, well, how do you go to a party and, just don't drink? Well, if I do drink, like how should I do it? You know,
Yeah.
should I take the whole bottle and, go to town? And obviously not, but and that seems like a dumb thing, but like I said before, I got into some trouble because of that. Because I'm sitting there thinking, well, one, I'm thinking I don't drink that much. So I was so backwards that I was thinking, okay, I can handle this because I don't do this that often. N- When actually it's the opposite. If you don't do it that often, you're gonna. And so, like when I drank a fifth of Jack Daniels in with another person in one setting, like within an hour, probably in 30 minutes, tops, maybe shorter than that.
I was taking it to the dome.
Taking him to the dome, and I was matching him drink for drink, not realizing that he was on shrooms. I didn't even really know what shrooms were. Well, when you're on shrooms, it's like a drug that basically you can, whatever it does to your body, it doesn't, you don't feel the alcohol as much. You don't, you don't get as drunk. Where I was on an empty stomach, hadn't eaten anything, and I'm matching him shot for shot with a whole bottle, and we're just picking up the bottle, taking it to the head. And so by the time I get back to the car, we're out at a lake. That's another issue. We're out at a lake. I'm not 21. I'm down at IU's campus. We're out at some lake. By the time I get back to the car, it's like stuff is starting to spin.
Yeah.
And I've literally a couple, hours later, I don't remember what happened. I woke up the next day and I was in the hospital. And it was like, what in the world just happened? And, luckily my parents came and got me, and, long story short, everything worked out. But I wish somebody would have said, hey, don't drink. But if you do, definitely don't drink on an empty stomach. Don't drink a lot within a short amount of time. Don't drink stuff straight. Like, I wish I had some street smarts around drinking, but I'm naive and I'm thinking, you can do it, I can do it. Well, I don't know you on a superpower mushroom, and I'm over here, regular on an empty stomach and about to throw up, get sick, and did get sick. So I think it's important that we find ways, and I think about that often. Like, how am I going to talk to my girls about life? Like, and I'm also, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting numb to life, because life is starting to be it's been so rough in the past since COVID, that I'm starting to realize that this doesn't last forever, right? This isn't bliss. Like, I just feel like my life was so much bliss for so many years, in a sense. And we had a few deaths, but I don't think any hit me like the way my grandmother, the way my father, those things hit me. And it's like, now it's like, oh, this is temporary. And so now that's coming into my head a lot more. And I'm thinking, like, I only have my girls for 15, 18, 18 years or so, maybe more, but they're going to go off and be adult women and make decisions. And it's scaring me some. But again, some of it, it's like I'm getting numb to it. Like, I'm preparing myself for it early. Like, I don't get them forever. And so while we're making connections and laughing and joking, I'm trying to think, what can I give you? Because at some point I got to give you away, whether it's in marriage or you got to go off on your own and make your own decisions. And so that's been something that is kind of a
sobering thought.
Sobering. Mm-hmm. Definitely, like, this is a serious, sobering thing. Like, yeah, it's all fun and games, but at the same time, I got to give you enough for you to survive out here. And I can't protect you always. I can't provide for you always. In some sense, I can, but you could blow it. I could set you up with a trust fund and you could do the wrong thing with it.
Yeah.
And there's some ways to kind of stop some of that. But just that idea that you can't control your kids and that they're not going to be your little kiddos forever, that's sobering to me.
Yeah, and I'm closer to that now with I don't have any children in single digits anymore. They're all in the double digits. They're closer to 20 than they are to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that, but I even thinking of the Heavenly Father, when you are a rock solid father, real kids know where to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
I even think of the prodigal son. He blew it. He wanted to, but the scripture says he came to himself. And one of the first thoughts he thought is that even the servants that my dad have live better than this. I can at least go back and be his servant.
Yeah.
And then come to find out his father had open arms and was celebrating his return. So I think the formative years as a father helps those later years because people know. And there's some people who still mess up, but a lot of times they can say it wasn't because of my father.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't because of my parents.
Yeah.
Like, I did this on me. And there's others like, hey, my father was never there. My mom was. So I don't ever want to be the real reason why my kids messed up because I let them down. And you mentioned respecting women.
Yeah, I
And
wanted to get to that.
that's something that you can teach as a father too, just how you treat mom,
Yeah.
how you treat their mom, how you treat your mom, how do you
Mm.
treat the women in your life. And I think that can be modeled. And another thing, if my boys are mistreating women, I want them to know they're doing that on their own.
Mm.
And they didn't get that from dad. That's not what I modeled. And
Right.
for me as pastor, I dealt with a lot of single women, and I just see sometimes the failures of men. And a lot of times people think just cheating. I'm not thinking that. I'm just thinking the way we stand up for our women,
Yeah.
specifically our black women.
Yeah.
And one, it's weird because I have nothing against it. I have nothing against interracial relationships and dating. I mean, I believe love is love. You love who you love. But I know so many black women who want a black man. I
Hmm.
mean, they have other options, but no, I want a black man.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I don't see a lot of black men saying there are, but I haven't seen that many of that are that staunch.
Hmm.
Like, hey, I've got a lot of options, but I want a black woman.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, shoot, as long as she got breast and butt, I'm cool.
I'm good.
I mean, it's nothing wrong with that, but just having a lot of women who are holding out because they want a black man, and we don't reciprocate that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they are. So that I don't know. It's starting to bother me, even though I don't have any issue with interracial love. I see a lot of black queens who, and not to say that they're perfect. We know women have their own issues, but
Right.
I would just love to see some dudes stand up and fight for
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
black women.
you would think that um we would, in a sense, because we know what black women go through. We've seen what our moms and grandmas went through. But at the same time, I think I can understand why. I blame a lot of things, and people will probably get mad at me for this. I blame some of our music. It's always the case. Do you blame the music or do you blame actual life? Because actual life is what the music is about many times. But it's like I don't know how and I like rap music and hip hop music, but we in our music have so much bees and hoes and da 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 da. And even now to the point where in culture, like we might say the N word in as a term of endearment. You hear girls now say the B word as a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's and it's like funny and all that, but it's like it's really not. And now that I have baby girls, it's like I
Yeah.
really don't want y'all doing that. It's like to me, it's not cool. It's such a degrading way. It's like we've made degrading ourselves cool. Like, yeah, I'm gonna degrade myself, and that's gonna be what's popping because I said it's what's popping. But I just don't. I don't necessarily want that for my girls, and I don't know if that's the reason that we have trouble respecting our women. Because I think if you close your eye and say that this or that, we tend to think of a black woman. Like we tend to, because of the imagery, because of the media, because of something. And I think that's why we don't respect them as much as we should. I mean, and I think we do have to get back to respecting women. And I don't know exactly how to put my finger on it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more nuanced than. I mean, I'm positive it's more nuanced than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
There's more to it, but I feel it. It's like one of those things that I can't articulate it because, like I said, it's not all men, it's not all women, it's not all black men are not stepping up, but it's in some key spaces it's just been a sore spot. Just recently, one of the things that irritated me most I was seeing it was a white male talking about Kamala Harris and some black men around. I can't remember the setting. It was like a Zoom. I mean, Kamala wasn't there. There was just someone talking.
Yeah.
But he was saying how she slept to the top and basically calling her a whore. And it's okay if a black dude don't want to vote for her, but to let somebody of the other race call a black woman a whore in your presence without any
Push back.
proof.
Yeah, proof.
Like
yeah.
something there ought to be a red flag. Like, hey, maybe I'm not voting for it, but you ain't gonna call her that in front of me.
Right.
But they was like, yeah. I'm like, how is this? I wanted to come through the screen. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, how is this possible?
Yeah. How is this okay?
Yeah, it's like this.
We don't have this natural instinct to like protect our women.
Yeah, I mean, not. I won't say we don't, because a lot do, but
a lot do.
In the ones who don't, it's irritating to watch.
Yeah,
because it seemed like something ought to stand up. As a guy who has a sister,
yeah,
it's just certain things. It's just, I'm a pastor, but I may have a prison ministry if you do something to my sister.
Right, exactly.
It's something innate ought to kick in.
Yeah,
and to see in certain cases, because like again, I don't want to generalize, but to see in certain cases it not happen is just, it's irritating.
But
to me.
Do we blame the church at all for making us kind of see women in this sort of lower rank and lower status? And at least the churches we grew up in. Now, look, I'll also say you go overseas, you go to some of these countries, women ain't even allowed to come outside or ain't allowed to do certain things. So the argument is kind of weird. And I don't know if that's them. Most would say that's them taking away their freedom, degrading them, right? But when you're fully covered up and like that's part of your religion, maybe that's protecting you. I don't know. It gets a complicated subject, but is there any, and this is kind of a provocative statement, which is why I'm bringing it up, is there any blame to go against the church for making the woman not be, I don't know, on the same status as a man?
We're very culpable in some ways. One of the things you do have to think of historically. So you got 66 books in the Bible. It's 40 different authors over a 1,500-year span of time, but not one author is female. That's just the way life was back then. Women's rights it took a very long time.
Yeah.
So every time you are looking in the Bible, you're looking through the lens of a male. And so it's easy to have misogyny slip in that when you only have the male perspective. So when you couple that and you take certain things that Paul has said and take it out of context, and then you don't let women share their perspective from what they see, then it becomes a very male-dominated world, and that can cause further misogyny to go on. And so you have to be intentional. Whenever you have a marginalized group, there has to be intentionality.
Yeah.
You have a race that's marginalized. When you have a gender that's marginalized, there needs to be intentionality, and we haven't been as intentional. So, even what I just said, which is common knowledge, how many times have you heard that? No. That the Bible is basically all male perspective.
Male perspective, yeah.
We have to, as men, be able to say, yeah, okay, I see how we need to be careful with this scripture and how it could impact someone who's female.
All right.
So if we're talking about submission, we have to know that earlier in that chapter, it talks about mutual submission before it talks about the female submission. So if we're only going to be 90% of the female submission and only 10% on the mutual, it's going to be out of balance.
Yeah.
We have to take the time. So yeah, the church has done it. But in some cases, women take a little blame too.
Yeah, I was about to get to that.
Yeah. So go ahead.
My thought was, okay, from a family standpoint, actually, I'll say it like this. I had someone that will remain unnamed. I met them, didn't know them, black male. They were telling me about a scenario where, basically their wife at the time, they were getting a divorce, didn't cook them breakfast, cooked everybody else breakfast, didn't cook them breakfast. Got downstairs, they looking for where their plate is. Oh, I thought you wasn't gonna eat, or I thought you would do this, and he said it hurt him so much, it's something that he'll never forget, because in that moment he felt like this woman don't respect me. This woman doesn't, put me on that whatever pedestal or that type of doesn't look to me in such a way where it's like, man, this is my man. Whereas maybe one would argue that these other races, the white woman, the Indian one, I don't know, the Asian woman, I don't know if any of this is true, but maybe they are more subservient to their man. Maybe they wouldn't cook breakfast for the kids in the house without cooking for the man. Like it wouldn't even come across their mind to do that. I don't know if that's the case or not. But have we become so like we cool? We both know each other where we almost both dishonoring one another. You don't respect me, I don't really respect you. And we don't mean it to be that way, but it's like we've because we're both black and we don't see ourselves really respected in the media or in the world or anywhere. It's like, you just kind of fall into this default. And so is the women, certain women in certain times and certain places responsible, and even maybe in that example, for in that they ended up being divorced from what I understand. And I tell you another thing he told me is like I wouldn't tell my I think he said he wouldn't tell his sister or his mom he wouldn't tell them I think to get a man or something like that because they wouldn't treat them right. Like he didn't believe that they had the capacity to respect them in the way that he felt like a man should be respected. So, and that was probably a little.
Yeah, I was going to go at another angle with it, but I think when it comes to relationship, that there are issues on both sides. So, but that's not necessarily the conversation I was thinking of when I talk about us respecting women, because it goes both ways. But like I said, for those who don't respect, but when I said sometimes the women can carry some blame, I do think of, for example, and not to be political, but Hillary Clinton. If more women would have voted for her, she would have won.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. But there are some women who
don't want to see a woman in charge.
They don't want a woman leading them.
Yeah.
So they would rather stick with a misogynistic man than trust another woman. Right. So sometimes, in any case, when you have a marginalized group, there's a certain portion of the group that won't work together to make the group go ahead.
Be better, be stronger.
So, like the Black Panther Party was pulled down by a black man working for the FBI to help be an informant. You have sellouts. So that's the angle I was taking when I said that sometimes women can be at blame as well.
Got you. I went a whole different direction.
So if you cancel anybody, cancel him. No, but
for cancellation.
But I see what you're saying. But when it comes to relationship, maybe we need to get this on another time, but taking the other person for granted, that's big and bad in both sides. And sometimes the women too, especially women who are like actually good women, sometimes once the kids come along, they are so nurturing for the child and so loving for the child. Sometimes the man can kick rocks.
Yeah,
they forget. So that's something else that we
got
to.
Yeah, let's talk about it at another time. But I think you're right. Like in general, whether the home and relationship piece, which I see what you did there. Like that's basically a relationship struggle. That's not necessarily you seeing the mayor of your city or the potential president of your country just being disrespected in such a way where you have no sort of gumption or unction to stand up for them. And like I think you're right. I just think, again, I don't know if you agree. I think something in the music that we listen to is making us like not have as much respect for women as we should.
And it could be that because, we do know that certain things sell. And so you glorify certain things are being glorified. Even the female rappers, there's a new age of I won't say it's new because we've seen it in my time of the Foxy Browns and all that, but it's a whole nother level now.
Oh yeah.
And it's some people call it women empowerment,
Yeah, empowerment.
but there is a sense of lowering the standard for everybody.
Feels like degradation, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but you just
Yeah, it's like if I can show my body, if I can, that's my freedom, that's my, whatever. But it's just like I don't buy it. I don't buy it that's empowerment for you to just walk around and be showing whatever. I get maybe there's a time and place for that, but I just don't think it can be a rule for everyone. So it just doesn't make sense. Like you don't want certain things to be exposed. Like stuff for private areas are private for a reason. Like they call it private because not everyone needs to see it.
When you're adult, you have choices that you can make, and so adults can make adult choices, including all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you lower it down to what you call lowest common denominator or brass tacks, if it's not good for the 5-year-old girl, then it may not be good long term. So we
55-year-old.
Yeah, we have to try to think about what's good, just generally good. Just like, say, well, cussing's not that big of a deal, but most people don't want to cuss around 5-year-olds.
Right.
So there's something about it that is a little risque.
True. Good point.
So we have to be able to build character at a certain level, and if what you're doing cannot be mass consumed,
mm-hmm.
then there may be
a reason for that.
There's a reason for it, and even to the, like, let's say Steve Jobs would limit how much Apple products his kids could see, because he knows, even though it's good and it's good technology,
he's taking care of their family.
He knows the bad side.
He knows there's a bad side to it. So
now I'm not even sure where I was going with that, but I think it answers the question of some of that stuff that they're putting out there. The people who are putting out there, they wouldn't serve it to their kids.
Yeah. And I think it comes full circle about being a good father, because what do you do? Not just to make you money and all that stuff, but what do you do when it's in front of your 5-year-old, when it's in front of your 2-year-old, when it's in front of your nieces or nephews? Who are you then? What do you want them listening to? And so I think that is a good litmus test for making good decisions as parents, as fathers. Like, I know now I hate it. I'm not caught up on Power right now. I'm not caught up on any of my bang bang shoot 'em up gangster drug dealing shows that I love so much, but it's like, this is inappropriate for my children, and my children are getting to the age where they not going to bed at 7:00. They up a little bit later, and it's like I need to figure out what's on primetime television, because that's the only thing that's clean enough, and even that's a little risque. They got a few curse words. I was watching like the new Matlock or whatever, and I think they said some stuff that I was like, oh, try to close their ears. But I don't know. I think it's it behooves us. It's a duty. I think as you grow into it, you start picking up on stuff that you wouldn't. I mean, I never cared about. I always watched The Power and The Godfather, and I watched that stuff on repeat. But now that I'm coming into a new responsibility, it's like, I don't want to necessarily let you see people blood and guns and violence. And it's like, why? That is a good point that you made. Like, if there's something risque about it, if I'm not going to let my kids watch it, I don't know.
So, so the protector in you is kicking in. So the father. So that, I guess that does bring us full circle. You're providing and you're protecting. You don't want to go too much where you shelter them too much, or they don't have anything, like you shared that you would like someone to tell you, but there ought to be an instinct for us to protect. And if it's that in us as fathers, it should be just in us as men, especially as it relates to women.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. What are we going to call this episode?
We can call it Cancel Him.
Cancel me. I got a little out of pocket. I want to actually ask forgiveness right now for anything that may get me canceled. No, man. Hey, parenting, fatherhood, congrats for being a dope father. If no one else in the world has thanked you, I thank you, Pastor Dre. for being a good father.
Appreciate that,
whatever
man.
benefit that's made in the world. I'm grateful for it.
And it could remain. It remains to be seen how beneficial that is. 'Cause my kids have not been released into the world, but maybe they'll be world changers in a good way.
Good.
But
Be good fathers, y'all. Protect our women as well. Until next time, it's your boy Stephen Motivate.
Rev Andre M, Pastor Andre Mitchell.
Peace. Pop up on us, Pop Up Podcast. We out.